Alright, we are recording. Continuing going medieval. Cues provided by Tinsley PR however long ago. It's been a while since this is of these stream-esque videos. 101. And I know there was some from when I did the original early access review, and then there would also be at least one from prior to the early access launch. There was also a preview build that I got into. Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't got a whole lot in the news to talk about. And I will admit, some of that is just because what was it, 5060 Ti? Is that what was launched? Or was it 5060? I don't remember which. And I've not really been following that, not really been looking into it. Yeah, I mean, yeah. These shouldn't be on. Don't know why any of them were. But why would some of them already off? I did put into the news for the week. Okay, I don't need to go up to that. Honestly, I'm not sure what I want to go to. Oh, you know, I actually do want to go there. I do want to go there. And I can tell you why. Because that damn bone armor. I gotta figure that out. It is so stupid. I have to figure it out. I want to make sure that that thing is at the lower level. It's being taken care of. Brain just turned off a little bit. That happens. It's very annoying when it happens, but it does happen. But yeah, so to be honest, I haven't been following and I've said this before, I haven't been following the GPU news for a while. Not very actively, I should correct myself to point that out. Maybe it's a bug that some are being on like that. Yeah, quite a few here. Yeah. Let me just see what we got going on here. Mainly that. Let's turn up. Well, okay, you know what? Nah, we'll leave that there. We'll leave that there. I was contemplating changing some of this, but you know what? It should be fine. Should be fine. But I do find it curious. Who was it that was mining? Like, because there are other things to be doing first. Oh, okay. No. It may have been one of these guys. He just hadn't been scheduled to then run over here and do this. Anyhow. But yeah, no, just some of the stuff I think I had seen was just like commentary on amount of VRAM, but also some people continuing to be displeased with NVIDIA for having for trying to count frame generation as actual frames. Which is a very legitimate complaint for them and for AMD and for Intel. Though are they doing frame generation yet? I'm not sure. But still, is it that they're hallucinated frames? They're not real frames. They're not evidence of performance. They are evidence of a specific technology being there. And being functional. So what? I know that is actually overly dismissive because there are technologies that we would care about, but yeah. I think I also did see there were rumors now about AMD putting out the 9060, which could be interesting. The heck? Why did it look like there was an explosion in here? I was gonna go. And also windows can open. Yeah, the 9060 could be interesting because of the whole... The 9070 and 70 XT do look to be in good... at MSRP, good price to performance, but availability has caused prices to go up. And there's also the whole, I'd have to do some research. I don't feel like doing it, but the claims that AMD has been subsidizing the price. So, like, one thing I'd seen suggested that AMD subsidizes a certain number of GPUs. So it's like, let's say 100 are AMD subsidizes those, so those will be sold at MSRP. 101 and on in a shipment would then be priced at whatever the people pricing it decide, whether that's the warehouse selling it to the companies, to the stores, or if it is the stores themselves. I'm gonna just need to fill that in. Come on. I wanted to turn off the things. Come on. But in any case, it still is. I feel like I'd need to do research on it. I said I don't really want to do that, but I think that that's actually normal. That you do see that with that has been the case for many launches before, so it's not a, oh, look, see, they're trying to trick us and make us think that it's less expensive than it really is. It's like, well, no, this... I think I've heard that thing being talked about in prior generations, and it probably wouldn't be limited to AMD either. Because, and I know I talked about this before. Good. There. Oh, no. Here. There. So in theory, that's not... Where's the armor? Here it is. Okay. Not there. Great helm. Not there. So, wait. Light helmet. No. So, how do you make these? There's only 3 helmets. None of them accepted bonus material. So they've got... Oh my god. Or maybe... Maybe it's supposed to be... Spoiler for those who savor human flesh. Maybe it's supposed to be something like raiders can drop it? I don't know. It still is nonsense. Bone armor and bone helmet is utter nonsense. Adam. Anyway, there. And my brain turned off. I know I was talking about the subsidizing stuff, and that I think that might have been going on. Oh, yeah. I don't think I got into yet that processors, CPUs, and GPUs come down in price as they are manufactured, because they get better at manufacturing them, so there's more that can be sold then. More that hit the right specification. So, in theory then, this idea that you are subsidizing early on makes sense, because later you don't need those subsidies. Yeah. It's like that is not inappropriate. Yeah, I also want to talk about something with this, with Saplings, but I'm just trying to remember if there's any other... And yeah, going back to the 9060 then, it will be interesting, because if that is going to be easier to produce, because in theory it's either cut down versions of the 9070's GPU, which means then that they are ones that don't qualify for the 9070, or they are indeed just smaller, less capable. Either way, you potentially economics of scale can start to come in, and see you see AMD saving a fair amount of money so they can sell them cheaper. So then become a question of, okay, where's the performance at? Yeah, it will be very interesting to see. Oh, I didn't even realize I had something locked over here. Ah, the limestone. Yeah, that actually makes some sense. Did that boar really just come over and eat some of that? Or did he try to? I have no idea. That's right, the sapling stuff. So, I've mentioned before, because of a book I'm writing, I'm having to do some research. Not necessarily deep research, because I'm not necessarily that good at such a thing. Wait, this casts a shadow? Yeah, it does. Or is that just... I mean, look, it casts a shadow. I don't think I've noticed that before. Anyhow, yeah, so it is interesting, the notion of saplings, because, and this, the chapter I'm in at the moment involves them. It's interesting because saplings, yes, do come about by fertilized seeds that then land, and that seems to be how they treat it here. But, you know, if we go here, well, mature, one pine sapling, growing, one pine sapling, one pine sapling, one pine sapling, and so on. Actually, that does mean I should be cutting down some of these. Nope. Yes. But where it gets very silly with this is the fact that, I mean, trees make a lot of seeds. So the idea that you'd get one sapling is absurd. Now, from trees, it'll take a while to even grow a sapling. Like, I was looking that up, that can be, like, what was it, a year and a half, 2 years, it was saying? Okay, so there. I'm not constructing anything, so that should be fine. That off. But what you can do to get a sapling much, much faster is you take a cutting from a tree and you plant that. You need the cutting to be the proper size and such, but the result will actually be, it can, like, a branch can then develop a root system. So you end up with a viable sapling from that. Now, it is a clone of the original tree, which may or may not have problems, but it still is, you can do that. So this idea that you would be possibly limited on saplings is utter nonsense. A full-grown tree, you'd think you'd get a lot of saplings out of. If you just choose to actually make them, to try growing them. And similarly, you know, with the seeds. It still is, there'd be a lot. It'll take longer to even get a sapling, but it still is, they are there. Nobody sleeps. Come on, there we go. Where's Lee? I guess he's just coming over. That was a little weird. think that's the only blight left. Okay. Wait, where are you? Okay. Okay. Good. There. That should do it. And I didn't even need to disrupt their sleep. But yeah, absolutely, you would be... Oh, wow, I don't have any of them? Yeah, it's not seeds, it's saplings, but yeah. I mean, I get the whole, because it can take a while, it's kind of slow, that you would be trying to accelerate things here. So it's like, instead of it being, dozens of saplings you could potentially get off of a full mature tree, instead of having it be, only a handful, but it still is. A handful is utterly reasonable. Yeah, I mean, legitimately, this game picked the wrong time for me, at least, to be playing it. It actually also makes me wonder then, those people that do the research, that, it's not just, oh, I'm working on a book, therefore I have looked into some of this stuff, but no, this is actually something that is of special direct interest for me. People who study the Middle Ages, people who are survivalists even, and so just know this stuff because it's part of their passion. It's like, I do wonder what some of their reactions would be to some of this, because I legitimately could believe, well, if for those of them that are in fact gamers as well, because I could definitely see some being like, well, this is just wrong, this is just wrong, this, not understanding that, well, some things you do need to sacrifice because it's a game. It's like that's fair. But it still is. I think that there would be some, like with the whole sapling thing, would be like, no, you get more than one sapling from a tree. Why are you saying you only have one? Or that, you have to do this to keep animals from eating your own saplings, your animals from eating your saplings. And also, I think that I would not be alone in calling out the foolishness. Can I go away? I need to be able to eat it. Okay, yeah, cut plants is high. Um, of not having a chore system. Yeah, it's a no. That you do need to have that, because there are some things that would be regularly done every day. The fact that we don't have that in here is a missed opportunity. Because they're so good at that, I'll let them stay at it. Oh, wait, no, sorry. That's not what I... Oh, yeah, that's... Yeah. Yeah, I really want them to get to the cutting part, so I get the saplings over there and planted. Another thing I got that I haven't looked too closely at it, and it's one of those things where maybe I just had a headache and so I wasn't quite understanding it, or it is just one of those things where there's nuance that I either need to see it written the right way, or or maybe I'll just never understand it. But Google has lost part of a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit against them. The claim, it's weird. It concerns their advertising system, and it is nuanced. So something like, no, their advertising system, like DoubleClick and such, that's fine. That's not anti-competitive. Rather, it's the fact that they use the same system for advertisers and publishers that's a monopoly. So an advertiser wants to put an ad out on various sites. They have to connect to. I'm not sure if it is AdSense, but let's just say it is. Um, in order to do that, so they go and make the account all that. The publishers that then are like, hey, we want to sell ads on our site, they also use the same service. So it's all in a single thing, which in some ways you might be like, oh, well, that makes sense because it, can help out the people trying to okay. It helps out the people trying to uh, get some advertising money. It's like, yeah, but the fact that it's all in a single place like that, and that's something that Google offers that I'm guessing no one else does, it does become monopolistic because why would anyone go? It would be kind of like the whole movie studios used to actually own the movie theaters. So from making it to viewing it, it's all under one house. And also like what Standard Oil used to do as well, and it's changed at least somewhat. I don't know how much it is, but the whole well, no, they did others, but the oil company owning the gas stations, but also Standard Oil would intentionally underprice their gasoline just to drive competitors out of business. But it was they were actually selling at a loss then. That behavior, I'm pretty sure, is also considered illegal now. But it is, I'm not sure because I'm not sure how much local gas station franchises are actually able to change change brands. I'm not sure how much they can do that. I mean, for some of them, I could see being no, it's like Burger King and McDonald's that there are specific physical requirements for the building, which would mean that you couldn't take a McDonald's and turn it into a Burger King or vice versa. But I'm not sure if that's the case for gas stations. But in any case, yeah, Google has lost that part of the federal case. But obviously they will appeal because they're saying, no, we're not doing anything wrong. It's what else are they going to say? So we'll see what the appeal leads to. And also, we'll see about that in so many years because, let's face it, will be years from now. Maybe I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it. Let's start clearing things out for that. There. Yeah, I don't know. But one thing I will say though that I do find interesting because I mean that is how the studio system got broken. Was they were like no, the government was like no, you can't have the studios owning the movie theaters, and there were other things as well. Like you used to have contract players, and it seems that today everyone is just independent. And that could in part be because I'm not sure of the exact timeline. But yeah, it's all I like that. There's actually a missing one. Got any? Nope. Brain just turned off a little bit. But it's kind of funny because we actually had that situation again today. I mean, we legitimately do because you have like Amazon and Apple both have and Netflix having their own means of production and their own means of distribution. And And I could see it being actually worse with Amazon because they can then restrict the ability for somebody to view. Let's say Rings of Power, even though it's not a good show, is my understanding. I have zero interest in ever watching that. But in theory, they could decide, if somebody wants to watch it, but they're like, well, but I don't want Amazon Prime. I don't want that. It's like, well, no, you have to subscribe in order to watch it because they might. I don't know if that is actually. Yeah, let me actually look. Like if that doesn't come to physical media, that's like, oh, well, I buy that, but I don't want to buy. I don't want to pay for Amazon Prime. There could be people like that. Okay. Looking up at Blu-ray.com, which usually has everything listed, even if they haven't reviewed it. Where is it all listed? That's not right. Here. So, it does look like it actually is streaming only, which is very interesting. Oh, okay, hang on. Well, maybe not. No, looking up the DVD, it's only listed for, like, only Prime Video is being given. Interesting. Very interesting. Also saw somebody in a review there trying to claim that, oh, it's true to Tolkien, then a lot of people will tell you. It's like, no, it's not. I'm saying I've seen some of the talk about it. It's like, even I know, and I'm not great with Tolkien lore. Even I know. It's like, well, no, that this is completely and utterly false. Yeah, sorry, but even just things like it's supposed to be set in the Second Age, but the wizards only arrived in the Third Age. So you're talking thousands of years later. Centuries to millennia later is when Gandalf and any other of the Astari arrived. But now they put Gandalf in there. It's like, okay, that is straight up false. They also have events happening that are supposed to occur thousands of years apart, occurring at about the same time. The Order of the Rings being made is well. I mean, it is, and it is one of those things that this is very easy to get right because literally one of the appendices for the Lord of the Rings is a timeline. It is just here's the year, here's what happened, here's the year, here's what happened, and on and on and on. It's all there, and they decided to ignore all that and just do it how they wanted to, and other things was like, no, and no. But still, is that technically? See, it is interesting. I do wonder if that would be sufficient. I mean, the problem is it's such a crap show. It's my understanding, and I just gave the reasons that I gave. It's like for my awareness of it, they have things very factually wrong for what is written in the Lord of the Rings. In the appendices there, not even looking at the Legendarium stuff, the Silmarillion, not even looking at that, which they can't do because they don't write there. But it's like, I know they have stuff wrong there. So, because respecting the canon is important to me, that is such a crap show that maybe no one cares, but it is technically, that is a monopolistic move. And you could also argue that is anti-competitive. Because even if it is because by not having the physical media, that also means that if Walmart wanted to say, hey, I want to be able to sell Rings of Power. I want people to be able to purchase that from my store and watch it. Amazon, put it on physical media so we can do that. That is technically kind of anti-competition. So yeah, it is a... I do wonder if we will ever see a move against this situation, because it's also... I don't remember if I've mentioned this before. I do have a kind of sort of conspiracy theory that I wonder if the reason why some shows, and I'll use Person of Interest as an example, which is still not that old a show, yet it's no longer in print on Blu-ray. It's like it's not even a full decade old at this point, I think. Actually, it might be close. Yeah. Oh, no, it would not be. It started in 2011, but it ended in 2016, so we're technically not yet to the 10th anniversary of it ending. But it's not in print anymore. It was a good show, though. Like, I bought a complete set, the complete series set on Blu-ray, but I had to buy it used because it's, for whatever reason, they don't manufacture it anymore. But you can find it streaming. Let me actually pull up where. Because this is a good show. I don't have any problem. Well, it's streaming on Prime Video, not just for, like, you have to buy it. It is streaming there. So. And it does say seasons 1 through 5. But I do wonder then, because where's a place you can purchase the media from, or could, if it was available? Amazon. I do wonder if they apply pressure, because that's Warner, I think? I do wonder if they potentially apply pressure and are like, hey, that show you got, that's a nice show. So how about if we have it available streaming? And if somebody's like, but we want to, I wonder if it might be worth trying to put something up tall enough here to cover it, so that they aren't being hit by the hail. That also doesn't seem like they care. Anyhow, but I do wonder. I mean, it is a conspiracy theory that Amazon is manipulating what it will sell by convincing people that, hey, you don't need to invest in this stuff. We'll just have it streaming. But it's like that consumers, some of us do want the physical media, so that way we know it's not being censored. That way we know it is of a certain quality as well, which does matter. Because when I take things off the discs that I do legally own, so what I'm doing is completely legal, and I process it so I can put it on the server, I do spend the time to tweak things. You think Amazon's bothering with that? You think Netflix is bothering with that? No, they're probably just saying, use this standard CUF, go. And that's it. So they're not trying to get the best quality out of it, while I am. And it can take a while to get that all figured out, too, so. And also gets kind of complicated. Like, I actually just pulled off Terminator 2 again. Because I realized I didn't keep the... I tried to keep the scripts for how I did it. I realized that I did that so long ago, I forgot to keep the scripts, because I didn't always. And, yeah, so I was messing around with that using X265, and also AV1. And I was experimenting with one parameter in AV1 that I've not really messed with much before. It's actually very weird, because I managed to get the AV1 files a little bit smaller than the 265. So I need to look and see, okay, which seems to be doing better at preserving detail. Well, which is giving me better image quality. Because 265 is objectively better at preserving fine detail in many cases. AV1 is worse, but it can get some better efficiency. And it's also, because I'm using the psychovisual fork of it, and I have tweaked various settings in there to try to retain as much detail as possible, and there's film grain synthesis, which is it's bad, but it still is successful at one critical thing, which is it hides a lot of artifacting that occurs with AV1. It is able to hide a lot, and that becomes, kind of useful for some of this artifacting, and it can make it seem like there's detail when there isn't. The funny thing is, technically, film grain, it does apply. It's almost like a psychovisual, it's how your brain interprets it, sharpening filter. But it's not an actual sharpening filter. I mean, it really is film grain is very interesting, and it is something that is supposed to be there. When they've done studies before, if you have video with film grain removed and you show it to somebody, then show it to them with it, the version with film grain is considered visually more appealing, visually better. So, but it's a film grain synthesis system, and I know, I'm certain I've talked about this before. It sucks because you really need to be able to control the size of the grains. Yeah. And you can't. You really can't. I mean, you need to be able to control the weight of the grain, which kind of sort of seems to be in there, but not really. Like the difference between film grain in that encoder at a level of 10 and 15 is very hard to see. 10 to 20 is hard to see, and so on. It's like, once you, like, the ramp up is very extreme and then seems very flat. But you also need to be able to, as I said, to adjust the size of the film grain. Because, I mean, it's like, there are older films where it is a larger grain. There are many newer films, it's much smaller. Not just because they're using digital cameras, but because we generally speaking have finer grain in film today. Which also reminds me of something that I saw. I don't care. I like Alien. I do not care for Aliens. It's not a horror movie. It's just an action movie, and it's like, whatever, to me. Okay. But there was a large controversy when the new Aliens 4K Blu-ray came out, because Cameron decided to, and I'm not entirely sure of the full thing that he did, but apparently applied an AI system to remove the film grain, so he denoised it. And then he put film grain back in. Which, for a movie already out, I do agree with those saying, no, we shouldn't have done this. Because, like, that is not what people have purchased before. That's not what people saw in the theaters. Don't do that. However, the idea to this technology, and part of the reason, part of his motivation for doing it, I do agree with. He apparently wanted to use a specific film stock when making the film, but he wasn't allowed to. Like, the studio was saying, nah, we're not spending the money on that. And different film stock, different film grains, different qualities there. So what this allowed him to do was finally correct that. And it's like, to that degree, I actually think it's awesome. Like, if he were making Aliens now, and it's like, well, they wouldn't give me the film stock I wanted, so I'll just change it in post. Like, get the closest I can, then change it in post. That I'm okay with. Because that legitimately is part of the craft of filmmaking, is what film stock you want to use. And what is available to you as well. So it's like, that I actually like, because in theory, then you could also have times when it's like, okay, I want it to be a very heavy film grain, but I was using a finer film grain, which technically would be a higher quality film. It's like, you can do that and mess with that. It's like, that I'm okay with. But because it's prior to the, as long as it's prior to going to the public. So, yeah. Film grain is very interesting, and hopefully with AV2 they realize that, oh yeah, we don't know quite what we were doing with AV1. Let's try to improve this. It's also funny, I actually found an application not that long ago that in theory can scan between an original and a denoised video and then give you the film grain. Yeah, no, that did not work. I tried that, it made the video look terrible. Whereas the system that's just in the encoder, it's like, yeah, just then it's not right, but it looks good enough. But it still is for older films where I want to preserve the grain. Oh yeah, I'm going with 265. I have to. When there's a bug in the SVT AV1 Psi fork, that if you use Tune 3, which is one that they came up with to produce better psycho-visual quality, you cannot use that along with a bitrate limit. If I could, then I would. That would be great. That'd probably make it easier, more comfortable for me to move directly to move even more so to AV1, but it is in some situations it's like, well, I don't need it to be over like 3.5, 4 megabit. I normally start at a limit of 3 megabit. But there are times when it's like, oh yeah, I want to go up to 6. But it's like, yeah, but if I actually keep you down to 4 or 3 even, you still look good. Because the way it's throwing out the data is appropriate. Got anything interesting? Nope, we'll get rid of that. You're not really offering a lot. I mean, to be fair, I've also got a lot of stuff on my own, but oh my god. Didn't I know I had that much way of clothing? Alright. You know what? Let's do this table thing. I want all your gold. Winter's coming up. Let's go to the summer clubs, since hopefully they are actually wearing that. Okay, it looks like fine is worse. Yeah, look at that. Okay. There. Alright, and I think I'll stop after this. When we get to midnight here. But yeah, so we'll see what happens with the AV2. We'll also see what happens with the VVC, which would be H.266, technically, I think. That's the versatile video codec and is being done by MPEG. Which, MPEG is the motion picture encoding group, by the way, just to be clear on that. It's not just the name of codecs, it is also the name of an organization. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that develops. Because in theory, I think I've seen some stuff suggesting that it should be not necessarily a great deal, but should be ahead of AV1. And technically, there can be licensing issues, but it's also one of those things where it's like, yeah, but they said that about 265, and a lot of things are working fine with that, so it is still in MPEG's interest to have its codecs be widely used. So, wide adoption helps them. So we'll just see what happens with that. Of course, one thing that may hurt them is the fact that AV1 was developed in part by Google and Netflix, which would be the two main users of it. Because with Blu-ray is probably going to remain the standard for physical media in perpetuity, is my guess. Unless you go to something like read-only flash memory. Just because in theory, Blu-ray... It's actually interesting, I looked into it. The original spec for Blu-ray allows for 8 layers, as opposed to DVDs 2. And each layer was, in the original spec, 25 gig. Okay, so that's a lot of storage there. But then I wanted to look up, okay, why am I seeing references to 66 gig discs? Apparently they figured out how to shorten the trails in the disk for storing the data such that it goes from 25 to 33 gig per layer. So that's a lot more storage that you can potentially have there. So I could believe that they may just stick with that and go to, if necessary, go to like 5 layers, 6 layers, maybe all the way up to 8 layers. eventually in the future. But what actually would make more sense is if they were to just change their encoding systems. Because, I mean, the reality is a lot, even with 264 and 265, which is what you see used on Blu-ray, regular Blu-rays and 4K Blu-rays, it's still, you can drop the bitrate to, without losing a lot of visual quality for what those things are using. So that'll also allow it to survive for quite a while. And there's the possibility of, if they ever decide to, okay, let's do a new codec. Like, in theory, they could decide, all right, we're gonna go. I doubt it would be AV1 because it has sharpness issues. But maybe AV2 will have that fixed, or 266. Thing is, Blu-ray players wouldn't necessarily support it. The thing I would love to see, and I don't know how possible it would be, is you could, in theory, put something like FFmpeg on a disc. On the disc, it's small enough you could have it very tailored and have the decoder as in there. So imagine having it set up where the player can just read off the software it needs to, and then just runs it. So that way you can use whatever encoder you want on the disc. I think that would actually be a really, really neat technology. Especially because if you did that, I would advocate for, not that my advocacy would mean anything, I would advocate for not limiting this to Blu-ray. Because, remember how I was mentioning, I'd like to use a bitrate limit with 265 of 3 megabit? The maximum bitrate for DVD is 8 to 9 megabit. Which would mean that, from my experience with my Blu-rays, I am getting still 1920 by 1080. The full HD video. Smaller than a single layer DVD. That would be very interesting. If you were to do... Now, true, plenty of people would be like, no, I don't want it that compressed. That's fine. But it still is. You could potentially see, then, DVDs being applied to this stuff. You could see CDs using more than just the CD audio. You could have it using MP3, you could have it using AAC, Opus, FLAC, and so on. The trick is the decoder. So if you could have that on the disc, have that read and then applied, it could be quite powerful then. And Blu-ray players do have internet connections, so in theory you could even update it that way. It's just do you have the ability to decode it? Well, to run an arbitrary decoder and then do that. That I don't know. But it would be really neat and very, very powerful. It would make it it would be a tremendously versatile platform. It would become a little bit more expensive though, because you'd need potentially an ARM processor. I don't know what the processors are I mean, they're probably some sort of specialized architecture there in modern Blu-ray players, but you need something like that there. But I mean, it's still something you could do. All right, that is enough of my yakking. Hope everyone has a good weekend, including having a happy Easter for those of you that celebrate it, and for everyone else, I mean, have a good weekend, and I'll be celebrating because I'm in fact Christian. So yeah. All right. See you next time.